you like Instagram? We knew you would. Give us a follow there on the Instagram, the 30-something broadcast on Instagram.
All right, guys. So we're back. We just took a little vape break there. We're gonna now be talking kind of about Blake. He's turning 30. Well, he's actually already turned 30, y'all. Blake is officially 30 years old. We can now officially be the 30
The
something
30 something
broadcast.
bro.
9 episodes in, we are
It's
officially.
official now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It sure is, man. So Blake, man, you're 30 years old, man. First off, let's just start out. How does that feel, man?
It feels good, man. It does. You don't really you don't really know what to think before you turn 30 because it's just the whole saying goodbye to your 20s that kind of freaks people out, but man, I just embraced it. I feel like here's how I truly feel about it. I got the most out of my 20s that I possibly could have.
Right.
So there was not much room left to pack some big life stuff into 20s, man. But now that I've rounded the corner and made it to the 30, I feel like this decade is going to hold some, like, not just big things, but like the reason why you're here
Right.
on Earth type
Yeah,
things. You know what I
smaller
mean? Like,
things it's weird. It's like you can have a $1 bill that's this big or a $50 coin that's this big. You know what I mean? It's something small that really means so much more, and I think
yeah.
that's really. Yeah, I was going to ask you what was the biggest takeaway from your 20s? Like what was the best thing you took away from your 20s? What could you go back and change? What was the 20, like, define the 20s in one moment of your 20s. What did you really take away?
I'd say, well, I'd say it's a two-part. I'd say that's a two-part answer for me because by 25, my takeaway was my renewed appreciation for my family and the realization that family is truly is it's all you got, man.
Yeah,
I
man.
mean, you got friends, you got your job, you got, your spouse. I mean, and those things are consistent. But who you came into this world with, and that is a defining part of who you are. And I think by 25, I kind of had run away from some of those ideals,
Yeah.
and by 25, I had come back full circle, or
Prodigal
maybe,
son, man.
yeah, yeah, kind of, but I'd say by 25 to 30, those years, the takeaway there would be, I'd say it's not all about you, and that ties in with finding a girl, that ties in with getting a job and getting your life, if it means going back to school to benefit yourself, or to just work 60 hours a week, or whatever it is. But for me, I had to realize that, at the end of every day, yeah, I need to be worried about me, and that's the priority. But I am not the center of this world, and my reality cannot be based entirely on me, or else, man, that just makes life so small. And I mean, I've met people that have like the most outward egotistical and successful lives, and that isn't even something that dawns on them, is that I am not like the center of reality.
Right.
But that's their life and they can live it how they want to. For me personally, man, it's just a little bit more simple. I'm a little bit more old school, I guess, when it comes down to it. And so family and just kind of realizing, like, hey, man, your neighbor is just as important as you are. And I think when I came to that realization, that is what opened up the doors for me to have like a successful relationship, to find not just a job, but to find a career, something that I was willing to invest myself into. So that's kind of my answer
Yeah,
for
those
the
are good
question.
answers. I'm right there with you, man. I really feel like you hit the nail on the head. I think, and we'll get to in a few months. I'll be turning 30, but I think I would probably answer that the same way, man. Big realizations I had were, uh, Drake says it best. All of my let's be friends or friends I don't have anymore. I guess I should have tried to keep my family closer, and I think you
Hmm.
realize, I mean, I said earlier, my dad's sick. I'm glad that 5, 7 years ago I realized I need to be fixing these relationships in my family and in my life because time runs out. You know, we're all gonna die one day. You know, and you realize that, and I think that was something that just hit me so big was we have to make sure that the family stays strong. We've talked about that so much on the show, and I think that'll be a continuing theme. I mean, it's one of the 30 something Proverbs. You go back and listen to that episode, we said that,
Yeah.
you know, family is a pillar of your life. And I know everybody out there don't have a family. We've talked about that. I get that.
Yeah.
But if you don't, then start building one, you know,
Yeah.
because you are missing a key piece of the puzzle. I feel like if you don't have a strong relationship with your family, you know, and that's just personal opinion. You might disagree. If you do disagree, leave us a comment, let us know, you know. But I think that's you hit the nail on the head there, man. I really don't think you can. You know, it's the thing. Now you ask a 22-year-old, what's the best thing about your 20 so far? Hell, man, that kegger we had back in September at UNCA, baby. You know, it's like you're in such a different plane, man.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's a big, you know, because you just turned 21, you know, it's just a different world when you're that old, man.
Yeah,
Good
your
answer,
your
Blake.
priorities are all out of whack when you
Yeah.
first, get into your 20s. And I think by 25, it's like you should be wrestling with some of those priority decisions, but by 30, you need to have your priorities in order. There's no more time to waste. Life's short, man. I mean, I'll be honest, JT, one thing that kind of I don't want to say scares me about turning 30, but it's just a reality of life in this day and age. But man, there's people that die at 60.
Yeah.
I could be at my halfway mark.
Yeah.
And
this show is your midlife crisis, basically. I mean, you know,
that's what
hey,
I'm
bro,
saying,
I
man.
know,
That's what,
Hey, man, you know, I was at work and my boss was like looking to buy a house, so he's been asking me for advice. And I saw him the other day, and I said, "Have you looked into buying a house anymore?" He's like, "Man," he's like, "honestly, I don't think I'm going to." He's like, "I think I might buy a mobile home and travel." He's like, you know, he's like, "I'm getting old." I was like, "How old are you?" He's like, "I'm 34." I was like, "Oh, dude, don't say that. I'm 29. Don't make me."
Yeah.
He's like, "Hey," he said, "Hey, in 15 years, I'll be 50." And I was like,
yeah,
dang, that hit me so hard. Like, we ain't gonna live forever on this earth, man. You know.
No,
And
man.
I mean, my dad's 53 and is battling for his life right now, y'all. It's not, you know, life is short. I'm sorry I keep going back to that, but it's just because that's the topic we're having. Life is short, y'all.
It's short, and you got to make the most of it. And that's the thing, man. We don't know. Tomorrow's not promised. And I know that's kind of a religious thing, and some people don't like that, but it's the truth. You could get in a car tomorrow morning and some guy run an intersection, and though you have lived your life right, he could T-bone you and end your life. And that's not fair, but that's life, and that's reality. And it's like, now is the time. You can't just keep putting it off and say, "Oh, I'm gonna grow up. I'm gonna grow up. I'll come around." Now is the time to come around.
Yeah.
Now is because it's like you just said, man. If you hadn't started working on that relationship 7 years ago, and you and your dad hadn't spoke, and then all of a sudden you get that phone call, guess what? I got bad news. Now you gotta make up for all that lost time to get to the point where you can even be there for him.
Right.
And it's like you're past that point. You're 7 years ahead. So it's like you don't have to worry about, is your relationship strong enough? Are you going to be able to talk to him about some of these heavy things? It's like, no, we've been able to talk about heavy things. Now I'm a support for him,
Right.
because that's what he needs,
Yeah,
man. And I
I appreciate that, man. Thank you, dude. You know, and
Yeah.
I have it written on my wall in my bedroom, y'all, and this is no joke. My advice, I write down like one quote for the year. My little quote that I have written down for 2017 is, "Don't say hello when it's time to say goodbye." You know, don't come around when it's too late. Don't come around
Yeah.
when it's like, "Hey, I've got bad news." You need to be the person that's calling saying, "Hey, you're the only one I can talk to because we've built this relationship. I have some bad news. How are we going to battle this together?" You know, and I
Yeah.
mean, our relationship is really good, man. Like, I'm battling this with a pretty clear conscience, and that's a good feeling, man, to know that I'm going right into this with him, into the gates of hell as partners, not trying
He
to play
needs
catch up
that.
and build a relationship while we're going through this situation. We already have the relationship. Now
Yeah.
we're going through the situation, you know. We don't got to get
That
too deep into that,
confidence,
you
that
know.
confidence doesn't just affect you though. That confidence exudes out of you and into him and gives him peace, because as your dad, he knows you're struggling with this probably more than he is, because I mean, you've got that much less experience in life and dealing with this type of a loss and that type of thing. I mean, those are heavy things, man. I mean, I haven't particularly lost anyone really close to me recently, or I have had people in my family pass away, but It's tough, and I know it's tough because I've seen people go through it, and I have felt their pain
Right.
through the circumstances, and I've been of support. But man, you basically what we're saying, guys, is don't get caught with your pants down, okay? Don't realize I want to be friends, I want to be closer with my dad when it's too late.
Right.
When you know that his time is limited, and who knows, our time might be limited. I
Yeah,
mean,
well, it
you never
is.
know,
It
truly.
is.
So,
It literally is. Your time literally is limited. That is a rule of our reality. Your time is limited. You just don't know
physics.
how long it is, you know? And it's funny
Yeah.
because my last and final question for you, kind of like shooting you with these questions, was going to be what's your best advice for somebody that's hitting their 20s to prepare for the future? But it really sounds like we're kind of hitting on that already, y'all. And it's weird because it kind of goes all the way back to preparing for this hurricane. Be prepared. Handle
Yeah.
the situations that come properly. Like if you have realize your time is limited, have a
Yeah.
plan, have something going on where you more than just what party you're going to next weekend, how many likes you got on Facebook, you know what how dope your clothes are, and stuff that holds no true value.
Right.
You know, what are you really building? Are you having any kind of life outside of yourself? You know, and
Yeah.
I think that's the best advice you can give to somebody that's going in their 20s. Now, they're not going to hear it. They're not going to hear it, and they're going to do what they want to do. But at least at 25, 26, hopefully they can come back and say, you know what? You were right.
Yeah.
You were right, and I'm trying to build that now, you know. And I think the 30s are a good time to do that because now we are realizing that whether sick or not, you know, my dad is an exception to the rule because he's still pretty young but getting sick now. But your parents are getting a little bit older, but they're healthy. My mom and my stepdad are healthy, but I'm realizing that one day my mom will be that little old lady in a walker, you know,
Yeah.
and I want to have a good relationship with her. I
The
want
best relationship,
the best,
man.
yeah,
Yeah. It's hard because everyone is different. Everyone has such a different family dynamic. I know in my family, it seems like it's kind of the trend for the men to do the whole prodigal son thing and come back,
Well, buddy, that's
and
you know, and we don't got to get too deep into religion, but I'm gonna tell you something. That's we're only basing the Bible on its age. That's the only way I'm basing it. I'm not basing it on that it's the divine truth written by God Himself. I'm just the Bible's 3,000 years old. Okay, that story has held up through time. You know that supposedly Jesus told that story as a parable, right? That's a parable from Jesus. So that story's 2,000 years old if Jesus was real. So you're talking about a story that's 2,000 years old that continues to reappear and
yeah,
reappear and reappear in each I feel like each man's life, you know, like I was the prodigal son. You think I didn't go out and live in the world and wait? My parents had saved $6,000 for me and I went and blew that money, Blake. You know, that's one of the
hmm
biggest regrets I have. A big regret I have in my 20s, blowing $6,000 my parents saved for me my whole life. But I had to blow that $6,000 to come back home and become the man I needed to be. But my parents would probably do that all over again if they knew what was going to
right,
happen because it made
yeah.
me the man I am. You know?
Well, they say hindsight's 2020. You look back, man, you always see things more clearly and say, oh, I could have done this or I should have done that, and it's kind of you can go down that road. I particularly don't like to go down that road just because I feel like really the future is more important than the past. You need to be more concerned where you're going. But man, all of this stuff really does tie into, just being prepared and not even in a sense of like physical preparedness, but I'm talking about like mental, spiritual, just mind, body, soul in sync preparedness. And by 30 years old, you need to start thinking about that stuff if
Yeah.
you haven't yet. And if you haven't, that's fine. I mean, there's everyone's in different situations, like I said. So you're not behind or ahead. 30 is like the time, it's like the benchmark where it's like you've had your time to either have fun or or you just grew up, you just went to college and you got out of college and got a job. But it's like by 30, it's just the standard where everyone agrees, get a job, stop getting arrested, stop partying, call your mom and dad, keep your house in order. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
I hear you,
not
brother.
just your physical, your mental, your spiritual house. It's all tied together. So, all of that stuff, man, that's my advice for 30 is just, man, take it every day at a time. But in the end, just recognize that family is number one. And after that, you've got yourself and your neighbor. Love them more than you, though.
Hey, I mean, you know, again, Jesus told you that. Love your neighbor like I loved you. You know, make sure you're loving people. Love people. I
That
mean, really, it's hard to do, y'all. You think love's easy? Love's hard. Love ain't
I was
nobody
driving.
never said love was easy. You know, love ain't supposed to be easy. Hate's easy. You know,
Yeah.
not growing up's easy. We're talking about things that aren't easy to do. Just like, and we're going to get into it later here in a minute about we're going to close the show out by kind of talking about transitioning of how we're doing this show. But like I told you off the air earlier, doing the show ain't easy. Things that you
No, it's
enjoy doing or things
take.
that you do to grow and be a better person, they're not easy, y'all. So just make sure, I think that's the best thing is preparedness. Make sure you're loving your neighbor. Make sure you are trying to build a relationship with your family. And really, if you're the prodigal son, come home. I mean,
Yeah.
that's really the thing. Come home, you know? Vape break?
Vape break.
All right, let's do that.